Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Welcome back to Big Mouth. You can keep the conversation going with me over on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. I am mad about movies and TV and so many other things. So fucking opinionated. And guess what? The news I woke up to this morning. Kevin Feige, yes, Kevin Feige, is developing a Star Wars film. It's true. It's true. How desperate are Lucasfilm, Disney, and Kathleen Kennedy? This is it. Galaxy's Edge is being boycotted. Can't get my words out. Galaxy's Edge is being boycotted. The Rise of Skywalker is going to be boycotted. We know that now. And it's made things worse since Bob Iger came out and said what they did to George Lucas and how they ignored his vision for the final Skywalker trilogy. Why did he do that? And now, they're in desperation. The only thing that anyone respects Kevin Feige. Well, do I respect him? I think he's been pretty fortunate with the MCU, but he's going to develop his own Star Wars film. Wow! Obviously, he can't direct, but he can write a movie, or he can get a writer to adapt his idea. Who is running Star Wars? And I don't mean the corporate entity. We know that's Kathleen Kennedy, who hasn't done a great job. She cannot plot a story. She cannot set a franchise up, and we don't know what's going on anymore. The Game of Thrones boys are going to do their own trilogy, right? We'll see the first movie in 3 years. Disney Plus are doing their thing, right? So, and now, Kevin Feige is developing his own movie. Is it a standalone movie? Is it another trilogy? Nobody knows. And what's happened to Rian Johnson's trilogy? What's happening with that? Because we know Rian Johnson writes and directs his movies. So he's not going to be involved with Kevin Feige's movie. Or is he? Who knows? And is this film going to be on Disney Plus? Is it going to be in the cinema? Nobody knows. People are already joking that Brie Larson will star in this film. It wouldn't surprise me if it's another female-led Star Wars film. Not, before you start on me, not that there's anything wrong with that. If you've got a good female character, everyone can look to. But Kevin Feige doing this, and this announcement, make no mistake, is political manoeuvring. They are so desperate, so scared that they're doing this to get excitement and interest. They know they've lost you, the diehard Star Wars fans, but the mainstream audience love Kevin Feige, and they believe people will come in to watch his movie. This is very, very interesting because I believe they are on the brink of destruction with Star Wars. This is hilarious. As I say, this is a desperate move by a very desperate company. Disney have ruined Star Wars. They don't get it. And the only person who does get it is George Lucas, the father of Star Wars. Then you've got Dave Filoni. Why can't he run the story plotting? Why can't he do what Feige does for the MCU? And what about the MCU? Where does this leave the MCU? Feige has just announced the crappiest phase in the history of the MCU. Who cares? Who cares about Love and Thunder or whatever it's bloody well called, Very, very underwhelming phase 4, and it's very, very interesting now. Look, I'm just going to get my popcorn and sit there and see what they do. But make no mistake, this is the act of very, very desperate people. They needed to announce something big, an event. And this is what they've done. There were always rumours about James Gunn doing a Star Wars film, but I think after Guardians of the Galaxy 3, he's done with Disney and he's going to carry on making DCEU films. That's just my private opinion. I think the way they treated him and sacked him for some jokes he's done 8 to 10 years ago was ridiculous. We all know that. No matter how we feel about his jokes, right? And I don't like them. I still don't think the man should have lost his job over those jokes. They were in poor taste and he should never have done them. Never. But you don't lose your job over things like that. So I think he's done with Disney after Guardians of the Galaxy. He's just doing it for the fans and his love of the franchise. So we got Kevin Feige now, the only kind of person anyone in the mainstream kind of respects because of what he achieved with the MCU. There's no question about this. Feige is he's a very bright guy. He knows how to run a franchise. He does. And he set up the kind of the Infinity Stone saga, the Infinity Saga for the MCU, and it worked. But this is a very difficult thing he's choosing to do. This isn't a comic book. This isn't a comic book. It ain't spread out with characters, you know. No more Luke, no more Leia, no more Han. What's he going to do now? He's actually going to have to create his own story, his own characters. Or, I say this isn't a comic book. There are so many pieces of fan fiction out there. And I said it about the Game of Thrones boys. If they adapt a great piece of fan fiction, and I think adaptation is their greatest strength, I think they can make a great trilogy. And it's the same with Kevin. If he can develop something that some passionate, talented fan has done, then we could be onto something special. There's no question about this. People are going to be excited. The mainstream don't understand that this is a very desperate act by a desperate company. I love Star Wars. I want Star Wars to be as great as the original trilogy and the other 3 prequel movies that I personally love. Yes, I love those movies because I understand what George was trying to do. But for me right now, I'm very cynical about this act. Now, when his film comes to fruition, if it's good and he does end up running the Star Wars franchise, as I say, what does that mean for the MCU? Is someone else going to run that? This is very messy. Can the man run both franchises? Well, he can, to be all honest with you, because all he's doing, he sets up the phases, right? And he says, right, this is what you've got to do. He oversees it. It isn't a full-time job. He could run both franchises. Very, very interesting. He came from, you know, basically being Avery Avrad's co-producer, right, on other Marvel properties before Disney had Marvel Studios. Look, it's interesting. I'll give you that. Will it work? Well, I think people will definitely be duped into going to see his film. But the question is right now, will this desperate political move actually work?